Hey now, I'm out in my backyard here hanging out with my brick smoker, which I have named Brimstone. And this is something I built 11 years ago. And at the time, that was before I was doing any sort of video recording of my little projects. But I did take a ton of pictures. And this smoker has been featured in some of the meat smoking and whatnot videos that I've made over the years. And so people have asked me, like, okay, what exactly did you do in order to build this particular unit? So I've gone back through all the photographs that I took, and there were a lot of them when I built this. You can, you can hear the chickens next door here. Anyway, and what I'm going to do is actually have a voiceover video where I walk through the actual build, and hopefully that'll help some people out. So let's check it out. Just before we get into the actual design phase, you can see I got some Christmas lights up wrapped around here just in preparation for the holidays, but you can see how the smoker is hanging out here, how it's sort of held up over the years. The exterior of it is really quite good. I'm upset. I need to actually get rid of this. I need to brush it down here. That was left over from when I put the upgrade to this, which was the concrete roof. I did notice just the other day that there's a little bit of cracking of some of the outside of some of this brick here. So that is something that I may have to address sometime in the near future. But I mean, this has been out here in some extremely harsh elements. This is Canada. We get down to like more to minus 40 degrees Celsius, which is also minus 40 degree Fahrenheit. Lots of fluctuations here in Calgary, where we have these little Chinook winds that come through, and we can have 20 degrees Celsius fluctuations in temperature, which can be really bad for thawing, freezing, moisture, all that kind of stuff. So you can see how it's held up here. Just opening up the doors, we can see the interior here. This is, oh, I have a little flaking off of some of that delicious little coating on the inside here. Oh, also a little bit of spider web action. You can see it's been probably a couple weeks since I used this. Last thing I used it for was cold smoking. But you can see sort of what the interior mainly looks like. I do occasionally use some rods in here if I'm hanging sausages or something like that, but typically I use this stainless steel sort of weave mesh thing here. Also, because I was cold smoking, I inserted some of these fire bricks in here just to help deflect heat, which I like to do. So anyway, let's check out the build. Now, my whole idea was to create a smoker where it would withstand the very cold temperatures here and I could smoke year round. Now, as always, I started everything off here by drawing up some plans. The idea was to have a smoker that had a red brick exterior that was protecting the fire brick on the inside, because the fire brick doesn't handle the elements all that well. I wanted two doors up on the top so that I didn't have to open everything all at the same time if I didn't want to, just to release all of that heat. But then I also wanted a door on the bottom, and that's where I would be adding fuel for the actual smoker. On the inside, I was going to be sort of almost alternating the fire brick, so I would have some fire brick acting as little ledges or shelves so that I could place my stainless steel racks on them. Now, I knew that the smoker was going to be quite heavy, and I didn't want to risk it slowly sinking into the earth over the years. So I called upon my father-in-law, Fernando, and his fantastic concrete skills from the business that he ran for decades, and he helped me do this. So our first step there was to actually construct a form, and it was a 4-foot concrete pad we were planning out, and then we got the rebar all set up. Then we just pulled that rebar out, dug down a few feet, and gave ourselves room to fill it with gravel, which would be far stronger than the dirt that was in there, and then we were ready to actually pour concrete. Once that concrete was poured and curing, it was time to figure out exactly how I would lay out all of my brick. So I did purchase my fire brick and then picked up some free red brick that I was planning on using on the exterior, but I quickly realized that it was subpar, and I actually wound up going ahead and purchasing some proper red brick that I found on clearance from a local place, the same place that I picked up my fire brick. Having never worked with masonry before, I also did some digging around online, found a lot of really good information, and then once that concrete was ready, I found the courage to actually get cracking and begin constructing the smoker. Check out my first little brick there. Once I had that initial course of red brick done, it was time to start on my second layer, which is where I also began including the fire brick. Now, one of the tricky things here was that I was using regular mortar for the red brick and then refractory mortar, which is obviously way better for the temperatures that would be happening inside the smoker and works better with that fire brick. It was way more expensive to purchase the refractory mortar, but it was the right move for actually putting the fire brick together. Once I had that bottom layer done, I knew that I wanted it to sit for a little bit so that it would be super strong and cured prior to adding all of the weight of the remainder of the smoker onto it. So during that time, I figured out how big of vents I needed for the bottom there, got the measurements for that, and then sort of ran some projected numbers and, figured out exactly how big I would need my door frame to be. And then I got a welder to put the door frame and those vents together for me. So these vents here are in fact just the same size as one of those fire bricks, sort of tilted up on its edge, and I can just slide it in along this little built-in track that we had here, and that way I can control exactly how much airflow comes into the smoker from both sides. And for this door, I wanted this angle iron to come in around, so it goes on the outside of the brick and then on the inside of the brick that I laid out here, and that way I would just be able to secure it like that. When I was first incorporating that angle iron door frame, I built a frame for it so that I could keep it perfectly level and secure as I was beginning those very important first courses of brick, so that they would be straight and that door wouldn't go toppling and it could be secured in place. Once I got to a certain height with those courses of brick, that wooden frame was in the way, so I removed it so that I could continue on those top courses of brick, getting around where that wood frame had been in the way, and then it was time to actually install the roof with the chimney. Now, the original plan for the roof was to have a large square of plate steel that would come just an inch shy of the outside perimeter of that red brick, and it would just be mortared on, and then I ran red brick over top of it to protect that plate steel. That really just made the smoker one giant chimney. I did have an 8-inch hole cut in the center of it, and we had tack welded that stainless steel chimney onto it. However, that move was a poor strategic choice, just based on our cold climate and the major weather fluctuations that we've got here. So make sure to check out my video where I remove that and put in that concrete roof, because that was a much better play in the long run. I wanted to install 2 different thermometers, one on each of those 2 doors that would be up on the top there. And I didn't have a way to actually drill through them myself, so I took them to a welding shop there, and the guys had a super swanky drill press that was able to cut through that 1/4-inch plate steel without destroying a zillion bits. So I did that, and then I got them up into place. These 2 thermometers have held up pretty well. I did get a little bit of hail damage here, actually. Somehow there's a little chip out of that, but the actual thermometer itself is working quite well. I like these Tel-Tru thermometers. They work quite sweet. This barrel bolt handle works really quite well as a design feature, and then you can see that I can open either just this one bottom door or both of these doors here, just depending on what I'm trying to access in the smoker at a particular time. And then also just having this bottom door as a separate opening. Look, it definitely needs to be cleaned out. This was super handy here because I can just add fuel to it without losing all that heat that would be up in the higher regions there. As you can see in the concrete roof build video that I did here for this when I upgraded it, these here are the bolts that I wound up, I had to drill through here and install these bolts that actually are sunk into that concrete that I built into there, and that really enabled this to not want to tip forward. It is secured really nicely into that roof, so this is now secure. I have put in some high temperature silicone here on the side just to help prevent any moisture from being able to get in there, because there was a small crack. You can see that there is also a little bit of a gap in here. My plan is to also add some of that silicone in here. I just haven't got around to it yet. The doors are attached to that frame using these bullet hinges. They were able to be welded on, which was great. And then also I picked these because they do have grease nipples. So I do pump these with grease occasionally. Honestly, it's maybe once a year that I add just a little bit there. And the idea behind that was that if the smoker was really, really hot and if this metal was really hot, I wasn't risking having my hinges seize up or have any sort of damage. That grease just protects them. So after a decent amount of work that summer, I was incredibly proud to finish it off. This, I thought, was a really, really fun and interesting DIY project. I'd never worked with masonry before, so I was really proud of myself that I didn't completely screw it up. There was that slight issue that wound up happening with the roof, but that wasn't an incredibly impossible fix. I was able to take care of that. But I still remember how excited I was to stand back and look at that beauty and just being really, really excited to use it for the first time. Every couple of seasons, I do wind up touching up the paint. This was just a spray, high temperature, sort of like a barbecue paint. I really like using either the barbecue paint or even that engine paint you can get that works for really, really high temps. That helps protect this so that I don't wind up with rust issues. You can see the last time that I did this here, you can see a little bit of color difference there. It was just a poor spray job. So this is definitely going to be getting another coat here in the spring. So after 11 years, and I cannot believe it has been 11 years since I built this, time really, really flies when you're smoking meat, I guess. I'm really happy with the smoker build. It really does, though, make me wish that I had access to like really good hardwood, like some of my friends down there in the US, down in the South. You can get like good hickory, all that kind of stuff. Oh, I just grew this in my backyard out on the property there and dried it myself. I am forced to rely on charcoal for most of my smokes, which really sucks, especially since it seems to have gotten so incredibly expensive lately. Now, this smoker here, since I've got like some pellet smokers and other things going on too, these days it's really been relegated to either cold smoking, because with that fire brick in there, it takes so much thermal mass to heat it up. So this is amazing for smoking cheese, for smoking fish, just cold smoke jobs, from cold smoking bacon, anything like that. It's awesome. Or for large smoking jobs. You can see some of my videos where I've had like 6 15-pound briskets in there at a single time. And just the fact that I can smoke year round. The first time I used this, it was minus 53 degrees Celsius. I don't even know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's way colder than minus 40 Fahrenheit. That was with the wind blasting through here. It was insane. And I managed to cook a 17-pound brisket overnight. It was phenomenal. So it was a triumph over nature. I hope this video helped any of you out that are interested in kind of doing either something similar or at least the whole concept of a brick smoker. But either way, till next time, keep your smokers, your meat, your projects at 11.